Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? Geoff Mosher, Adam Caplan, and today is the day that you have all been waiting for. Today or tonight is the start of the 2024 NFL Draft, and it begins with tonight's first round, which will begin at 8 o'clock. And finally, Adam, we've made it to this point. There's been a lot of draft preview. I think we've covered it, previewed it, I should say, as well as possible with all of our shows with Greg Cosell, with all of our content from Andrew DeCecco. I mean, from day one to day three, and in this podcast where we empty the notebook, it's been quite a month of getting our content out there.
Yeah, just appreciate everyone's just consistent traffic they're giving us. It's been awesome, and we appreciate the comments and all that stuff. So yeah, it's finally here. Thank goodness it's draft day. Every friend of ours who's a former season ticket holder, current season ticket holder, everywhere you go, okay, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? It's how are they going to trade out? They're going to trade up. We're going to settle at today what we know, what we've heard, what we believe based on people we've spoken with, what could be available at 22. We'll get into that. We're going to talk about Isaiah Rodgers, by the way, that finally got reinstated.
Finally.
And then we had an absolute steaming Patreon live stream last night, which is freaking awesome. I got to tell you, these might be the smartest fans we've ever dealt with in our careers.
They're amazing.
Like the stuff they're bringing up, I'm like, damn, I didn't think of that one. We're going to look into that. So the two things we got out of there that we're going to probably look into for the show with Greg later today. We're going to see if we can find out.
Right. So yeah, we got so this is our Empty the Notebook pod that comes out the morning of the first round of the draft, but we still have more forthcoming. So more forthcoming.
Yeah.
So first, this pod, of course, is presented by Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. Later this afternoon, this is Thursday, so hopefully around 5 o'clock, we'll drop, maybe even before that, our NFL Draft preview show. We do it every year. This one's going to have me, Adam, of course, Greg Cosell as usual, but also a special guest, Jim Nagy, Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl. He is going to be a big part of our NFL Draft preview coverage today. And this guy, I don't know if you can find two people who don't work for NFL teams that watch more tape than Greg Cosell and Jim Nagy. So to have them both is really awesome. So that'll be later today to really fully preview the draft. And then on Friday, what we're going to do is myself and Andrew DeCecco, we're going to share intel on the pick. I'm sorry, Thursday night when the draft happens,
yes.
Andrew and I are going to share intel on the pick that the Eagles make when it's made, assuming that they actually make one. Hopefully they do.
Please
you never
do.
know,
Please.
But let's just hope they do. And then same thing on Friday. Andrew and I will have recap intel on the picks Friday, and then Saturday, the big day, the extravaganza, rounds 4 through 7. I like to call it Andrew DeCecco Day at ITB. Exactly. It's going to be Andrew and Adam are going to be recapping, giving all the intel they've got on all those picks. So that is our Thursday, Friday, Saturday coverage plan.
Do we have Greg next week as final wrap up? I can't remember if we're doing that with him.
I think we'll wind up doing it. I don't know that Greg knows this yet. So
okay. Yeah, we'll talk to Greg. Yeah, because that'll be steaming, man. Yeah, yeah. I love it. I can't because he's so great with that stuff. Because he's been he's been with us a long time. We're glad to have him. And yeah, this is a big day. And I was in Wegmans the other day, and there's certain Wegmans I go to, so kind of you get to know people when you walk in, and it never ceases to amaze me. What are the Cowboys going to do? There are Cowboys fans, and yes, there are Cowboys fans here. It's disgusting, but there are. But it's like, what are they going to do? What's Howie going to do? And what are they going to do at this position, that position? I'm like, hey, you know what? Listen to our show, Inside the Birds. You know who I am, so you must know Inside the Birds. So let's go.
Yeah. No, as for our Patreon members, you alluded to with our great live stream we have Wednesday night, they have already gotten a sneak peek of the Jim Nagy interview, and they're also going to get more Greg Cosell preview. He'll be on our draft preview show, but he's also doing an extra show for our Patreon crew that'll be up Thursday as well. You're going to want to get in on that. It's going to be more intel on more players, especially day 2, day 3 guys. So it's patreon.com/inside the birds to access that. And we want to thank our latest members, Brendan, Brian, and Devin, for hopping on and becoming part of our Patreon community. And of course, we will do another Ask ITB live stream on next Wednesday, to recap everything NFL draft related. And by that point, we'll have all the rookie free agent signings as well, undrafted free agents and everything there. So looking forward to all that coverage on both the main platform and on Patreon. Let's get into the pod here. The Eagles did finally get a reinstatement of their cornerback, Isaiah Rodgers. We should mention he's also has kick return ability, so he's a versatile player. Only 5'9", Adam, but I like to call it a big cauldron here, like a big pot of stew after Darius Slay and at the moment James Bradbury as your starters. They have, whether it's Job, whether it's Eli Ricks, whether it's Keely Ringo, now you add Isaiah Rodgers here. Somebody rise to the top is basically somebody will have an opportunity here, you would think.
Well, yeah, Rodgers, absolutely. In fact, he was a really good kickoff returner. That's what he's projected to be. He could play inside or outside corner. Now, he played outside mostly in college at UMass. You talk about his size. He's got a smaller frame. That's why the clubs we spoke to project him to be mostly inside because they didn't think he'd hold up. He did fine in his role with the Colts. He played mostly outside. What would happen is Kenny Moore was in their outside corner and base. When they went to nickel, Moore would move inside, and Rodgers in 22 moved outside. And then, in fact, Kenny Moore got hurt one game and actually started on the outside. And they were really high on Rodgers, but I don't know why. Just look, he didn't hurt anybody. Why the Colts gave up on him like that? And I know Rodgers had some maturity issues at UMass. We're told by multiple teams that was a little bit of an issue for him. But you got to think he's been humbled. We'll see what happens. He's on the roster now. You don't have to worry about that. We're told the contract's $1.1 million. No guaranteed money, obviously. He's got to prove himself. He's not guaranteed anything. But the good thing is they need him. They need a developmental corner. He is that. Absolutely. By the way, he's already done it. No offense to Ricks or Ringo. He's better than both those guys. I believe, based on what we've heard, he's more athletic, more explosive.
Mm-hmm.
He can return kicks, as I said. And by the way, with the new kickoff role, who knows? He could be even more important, but he's got to prove himself.
Yeah, no, 100%. He was the 3rd round pick, correct?
Sixth.
I'm sorry, 6th round pick. Yeah, I was thinking of somebody else. Yeah, no, he's got a little juice to him, which again, he can return kicks. So he certainly becomes an interesting guy to watch, and we'll see where they view him once the guys get onto the field in OTAs and training camp. But again, he is without the draft here, as we get ready to talk about it, he is one of many guys who are sort of competing for a spot. You mentioned that it was a 1-year deal, correct?
Yes, 1.1 million, no guaranteed money. Yeah.
Gotcha. No guaranteed money. Interesting there. All right. Let's talk a little bit more now about the draft, where the Eagles are going to be picking and what we're hearing. Before we do that, let's pause real quick to hear a word from our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right, so the Eagles, Adam, they go into the 3-day event with 8 picks. They have obviously the 22nd pick overall in the first round. They have 2 picks in the second round, 50, 53rd overall, and they don't have a 3rd round pick because of the Kenny Pickett trade. A 4th round pick, they have a 5th round pick, and they have a 6th round pick. So
Actually, have 3 5s.
I'm sorry, they have 3 5th round picks. I was just reading here. Yeah, because they got 2 comp picks along with a pick from the Buccaneers and then a 6th round pick. So that gives them 8 overall. And just as an overview, they've had some drafts in the past where they only picked 5 players. And, the 2017 one was a great one. They got
18.
Mailata, they got 18. Mailata, Maddox, Goddard, Josh Sweat was in there. But man, it just feels like with what they need to do on defense, Adam, this is going to be an interesting study in what Howie Roseman does, because he loves to move up in drafts. He's done it each of the last 3 drafts. But if you're going to package one of those 2nd round picks to move up in the 1st round, that really leaves you with just 1 2nd round pick and no 3rd round pick. And it sort of reduces your ability to replenish as you chase a higher pick in the 1st round, potentially.
By the way, with how since 2010, I think 33rd team, I think, had this number. I don't doubt this. I don't have time to look it up. The Eagles have made the most trades involving first round picks. Inside that each individual draft, they've made 8 first round trades.
Wow.
2010.
8?
That's insane. Yeah,
and that doesn't even count trading a first round pick for AJ Brown, right? Or does that count that?
Maybe it does. I'm assuming it does. I'm assuming it does.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Did they trade up for Andre Dillard?
Yes, 2 spots. Yep, that's why. It's the
Wow.
Wentz. It's Wentz. It's Dillard. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
Oh, it goes back to Brandon Graham. It goes back to Jeremy
2010.
Maclin. Didn't they trade up 2 spots for Maclin?
Maclin would be, but now I think their stat had 2010. I could be wrong. I just know they said eight first round trades. Now, on your point, obviously AJ Brown, Dillard. Yep, they traded up.
Yep.
Look, Howie on the point as we move this forward here. He's kind of fearless. He loves to move around. He couldn't help himself in that press conference with Sirianni. He loves to make trades. We all know that.
Mm-hmm.
But on your point, as we move forward here, they got to get defense. This to me, although I'll tell you in Patreon on our chat, I thought there was a great point that the one guy, I think it might have been Frank, who talked about. Yeah, they're still not very good at backup receiver. They're not. It's a great point. But the problem is when they need so much help on defense. They need D tackle depth.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to do anything at off the ball linebacker. They should for the future, but they don't have to. They can get away with it this year because they've upgraded the group. There are a lot of questions. They need another edge rusher. They need 2 corners at a minimum. They need 2 corners if they could. Certainly one. They have to have one high-end corner. They like to have 2. Need another safety. They got a lot of work to do.
Right. All right. Well, we've done a lot of work. We've talked to a lot of people. We've exhausted sources, both coaching sources and personnel sources, and everybody that we can. It feels here with the Eagles at 22, based on the intel we've got, that there are 2 likely scenarios, right? There's you're at 22 and Howie does what he normally has done, his track record you just mentioned, and trade up. And it feels like if it trades up, he's looking for a cornerback, not ruling out trading up for a different position, including offensive line, but just the vibe that we've got. Stay at 22, you're probably lost out on the corners and you're looking at the best offensive lineman in that spot. Do you get that same vibe and sense?
Yeah.
So we were in agreement on that.
Yeah, we've saying quarterback for months. I don't see any other scenario. Now I would tell you, other than with an asterisk, it's a cornerback top heavy group. It's Quinyon Mitchell. It's Terrion Arnold. Now, this is where the debate comes. Multiple clubs told us they got one club said they got an early 2 on McKinstry. Another one said they got a mid. Eagles haven't heard a lot of steam on them. Haven't heard a lot of interest in them. Doesn't mean they won't draft them. I know they didn't have them in, at least to the greatest to my knowledge. They didn't have them. It doesn't mean they wouldn't draft them. But after that, man, there's a Rake Straws later. He's physical, smart, tough, but he doesn't run well enough. TJ Champa's a probably mid-second round pick, doesn't run all that well, but interesting guy. Kamari Lassiter's interesting, top 45 pick. Max Melton's Eagles like him. They had him in for a visit. He's an inside-outside corner, but again, a second-round pick. The second-round corners look pretty interesting. So if the Eagles don't get that guy in round 1, they get him round 2. Remember, they have 2 2s if they don't trade any of them. So they're okay if they don't. But if you want and I wouldn't call Terrion Arnold's not a can't miss guy. What you love is he could play inside or outside, and they had him in for a visit. They like him. You could just wait. Is there a major separation between Arnold and those second round guys? No. It's Mitchell drop off to Arnold. Mitchell's clearly a better football player. Well, we're going to talk about him in a minute. Nate Wiggins, Eagles had it. I think you told me they had him in for a visit.
Yes.
One club picking the second half, not the Eagles. One class in the second half, one team in the second half of the first round told us that they wanted Wiggins in for him to answer kind of what the effort was like here. They want to get to know him because there's some small character knocks on him. They just want to feel more comfortable with him because he could drop to the 20s. He could go anywhere from 15 to the Colts to who knows, deep into the 20s. So they want to get to know him, and smart for the Eagles to bring him in. And you want to, if he's going to be your guy or potentially your guy, you want to, there's a reason why teams bring these guys in. You could medically test them. You can't work them out, but you can medically test them. You can learn more about them. And that's why you would bring Nate Wiggins in.
All right. Certainly he's gonna check that box, Nate Wiggins, for those that really love the speed. I've been joking, but I'm only half joking. The Raiders picked 13th overall. They're known for always taking the fastest
Mm.
prospect. But that seems like that 11, 12, 13 were the Vikings, Broncos, Raiders, Colts at 15. All those teams could use corners. So it'll be pretty. I'm not saying they're all going to take corners. I'm just saying that's kind of an area that if you feel like there's a guy you really want to get, whether it's Quinyon Mitchell or whether it is Terrion Arnold, that might be what you're looking at to move up. There was a time, just based on some of the feedback I was getting, that I felt that people were saying, "Hey, look, they know that the Eagles really like the athletic testing, and Nate Wiggins tests really well athletically, but come to do more work on Nate Wiggins, and teams have questions." You mentioned that the weight, he has put on some weight, so that's good. You said he's answered some questions about what the tape says. I do know there are some maturity concerns. There's maturity, off-field maturity concerns, and then there's some tape about whether or not he's putting his body in there all the time to make the play. So it doesn't feel now like that one. The vibe I was getting maybe a while back was, hey, watch the Eagles and Wiggins. Don't feel that way as much now, on a trade up, especially. I think Mitchell and Terrion Arnold, as you mentioned, would be the guys to watch for. And listen, it's going to invite the question about, is it really worth it to take one of your twos when you have so much replenishing to do on this defense, package it with a one to move up to get a guy in either Quinyon Mitchell or Terrion Arnold who may not be as elite as a Surtain was, or a JC Horn, or as a Sauce Gardner. I can't answer that for everybody, Adam. I would just say the Eagles have missed on so many corners for over 20 years now that I really wouldn't blame them for making a move if they really believe that they had a corner who can play for them through two contracts and play at a high level and be a starter. And they need something better than they've gotten James Bradbury. So I wouldn't exactly crush them if they felt like they had to make that move.
So the targets that we're told to keep an eye on, because it's when you're picking a 22, it's all about teams in the 20s always have a cluster. They have a group of players. You mentioned with Mitchell, he's what we call a mid blue player. He's not a high end blue player. He's a good to very good football player. As Geoff said, he's not in the Surtain range, not close. But he's good, very good player, good kid, great story of development at Toledo. His coach played with Sirianni, Jason Candle, when they were at Mount Union, was it? Is that where he went to school?
Yeah, so Jason Candle, who is the head coach of Toledo, played wide receiver at Mount Union, just like Nick Sirianni. I don't know if they were roommates or teammates. They might have been roommates, but either way, if you'll notice, the Eagles brought in basically every first round corner for a visit except for Quinyon Mitchell, because A, he's a very clean prospect, and B, all Nick Sirianni's got to do is pick up the phone, and if he wants the whole story on Quinyon Mitchell, he just calls his former college buddy and gets anything he needs.
So those are some of the trade up possibilities, and Geoff said an offensive lineman. It depends, and it really with any player, it depends how far they drop. Now Mitchell will be a different story, because the problem is so many teams ahead of the Eagles need corners. Like 6 teams at minimum need corners in front of the Eagles. So that's they're going to Eagles have to trade way up. The Eagles, they have the ammo to do it with the 2 second rounders plus the first would obviously be flipping with that team. But the tackles who could possibly make it based on the people we've spoken with is Marius Mims, who we were told, this surprised me. We'll give you a little hint. We in our live stream and our Patreon, we talk about a lot of things we don't talk about on a regular show. There's some just stuff we don't get into here as much, but one of the things that someone asked us about Mims, and I said, you know what, we're gonna find this out right now. So we found out during the live stream that he can play right tackle. It's the first time we asked the offensive line coach, Geoff and I know. We said, hey, is there any chance, because he's super long and I know he's raw? He goes, oh, absolutely. And the person we spoke with said, absolutely. He's willing to learn and to play right tackle. He's a willing learner and wants to do it. He's very eager to be a great football player. I'm like, wow, that was pretty interesting. So can't rule that out. That puts him a little bit more on the radar.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler Guyton, we know they had him in. We're told no way he could play guard. You just wouldn't do it. He's inexperienced, raw, could play both sides. He projects to play right and left tackle. And that would be another guy that should be there. Can't say definitely, though, with all this stuff, but that's a guy to look at 22.
So from what I understand, the Eagles don't believe they have to take a tackle who has guard capabilities. I know that that is a popular perception based on their drafting in the past and based on the fact that they have an opening at right guard here. But you just mentioned Tyler Guyton, Marius Mims. There are some guys in this draft who might be there at 22 who don't project to play because they haven't done it or they're too big. For example, like Guyton and Mims are both like 6'7", 6'8". I mean, these guys are unbelievable athletes. You want them on the edges. They don't project to play guard. Doesn't mean the Eagles won't try it, but from what I understand, it's not a mandate.
Well, here's one for you. I thought it was crazy when Big V got moved to guard.
Yeah.
He's just it was too big. He did it. Herman's. Remember Todd telling us that he put weight on when we asked him to be able to do it. I mean, they told him to put it on, take it off. So you know what? I never say never. We're just told Guyton you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to ask him to do that. He doesn't really project to do it. But as you just pointed out, and what you're really talking about with Geoff Stoutland, if Stout says a guy could do it, doesn't matter what us two jamokes think. It's what he thinks.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. Fair enough. I got you.
Cooper DeJean's an interesting one, man. He's just all over the map. Like, I think we made the point that if you're going to draft Cooper DeJean in the first round, I mean, if you're going to draft him anywhere, but especially in the first round, you have to really know what your plan is. Like, he's not someone you're like, all right, well, we'll try him out here. And if it doesn't work, absolutely have to have a plan for him.
Yep.
He did take a visit to the Eagles as well. I mean, it's pretty fascinating that all of the projected first round corners except Quinyon Mitchell visited the Eagles at the NovaCare complex. I find that pretty interesting.
So Cooper DeJean, according to the people we've spoken with, let's just leave the multi-positional stuff out. He's probably one of the 5 most talented players for this draft, maybe depending who you speak with, maybe top 3. He's that gifted. Not everyone's in love with him, but the Eagles like him because he's could do a lot. He could return, super high character, smart, athletic, tough. He projects basically to be a safety. Yes, he could play outside corner. We've been told more than once that don't just pigeonhole this kid, but on Jeff's point, he's right. This is where, and I kind of railed on this on our previous show on the dropped on Monday. We did the mock draft. This is where personnel staff and coaching staff they got to get together. This particular player, more than any player in this draft, you got to know where you want him. You can't screw with him. I don't care how smart he is. You can't keep asking him to do stuff. It's hard at this level with complexity of offenses. I get it. He could be a matchup safety. There's no problem with that. Matchup DB, if you want to call him that. But have a plan for him, and don't screw with this kid wherever he goes. But just want to mention, yeah, the Eagles definitely like him. So you got to have a plan at 22 because if they can't trade up to get that corner, it's on your point. Chop Robinson, by the way, they had him in. They like him. He's super twitchy, explosive, but he's a little bit raw. He needs further development. He doesn't have to play a lot year 1, wherever he goes.
Yeah.
Eventually, he's going to have to be a starter if you draft him round 1. And we'll get to a couple more other guys. But I'm glad we kind of covered all those guys because those are guys to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I know that a couple weeks ago in our mini mock draft, Adam, at 22, all the corners were gone. And somehow Troy Fautanu, the great tackle at Washington, who can play multiple positions, made it to the Eagles there in our mini mock. I don't feel as confident sitting here now talking to you that he'll be there at 22. But if they do stick and he is there, boy, that's a really nice feather to put in the cap if they went in that route.
Oh yeah.
He did also visit the Eagles at the NovaCare complex.
By the way, he's another trade up guy. If he starts sliding past, let's take 15, right? If he passes 50, Saints are looking to they have real offensive line problems right now. Seattle needs 2 guards. They don't need just 1. They need 2 guards. If he passes Seattle, I know John Schneider would be him and Howie have done deals before. They know each other very well. They'd be a trade up partner. But if they pass on him, take a look at that. Jacksonville probably not. Bengals, yes. The Bengals are so dumb. I talked about this last show. They don't get it. If you want to be dominant or be really good for years to come, get your offensive line fixed. But that's another team. So it's a good name. I can't see it getting to 22, let alone close enough. But you never know. We don't have access to teams' draft boards. We've got a lot of information. I would be floored if that happened. What a home run with that kid. He is, depending on who you speak with, maybe the 3rd best lineman for this draft.
Yeah. Yeah. The only other if Talisi Fuaga from Oregon State were to somehow slip because
Oh,
the Jets took Alt
yeah,
goes to the Titans. Let's say the
yeah.
Jets take the Penn State kid,
Shot him.
Fashanu,
Yeah, Foster, yeah.
and then you get to the Saints, and let's say they like Tyler Guyton,
Oh,
and all of a sudden Fuaga starts to make that's the type of player you always have to have your sonar up for Howie to make an aggressive move, even though it's not a corner, it's an offensive lineman, and even though you have to add a pick, there are just certain levels of talent that we were alluding to earlier in the show where Howie's going to make an aggressive move because somebody tumbled and that person was within reach.
well, with Fotanu, he's under 6'4", but we've been told by multiple teams he absolutely could play left tackle. He's got 34.5-inch arms. Wingspan's really good hand size. But look, if by a miracle, Fuaga, I'm trading. I mean, I know they need a corner. I get it. They can get a corner in the second round. Fuaga is one of like the top 5 players in this draft. I mean,
Yeah. He might be
wow.
the safest of all the offensive linemen. I would agree with you.
I would say this though. It's funny you say that. And I've had 2 coaches tell me he's the safest offensive lineman for this draft, but one of them said Fuaga's a better football player. You love him.
Wait. Who is? They said Alt's the best, but Fuaga's a better.
No.
Oh.
Alt's the safest, but Fuaga's better. And one guy said, "Look, the only thing is, I really would rather have him at right tackle. He's a nasty bleep, which you love. You could play left tackle and be fine. Alt's a better left tackle projection than Fuaga is, but Fuaga is just a different type of football player. Boy, I hadn't thought of this stuff, because this is the great part about the draft. We've done so much work. We think we have a pretty good handle on it. Stuff's going to happen that you can't predict, as GMs will tell you. And it's always funny to talk to personnel people, as you and I get these stories during the draft. Sometimes we text them, and after it, we're like, gosh, we don't know what that team was thinking. I can't believe they did that. And it helped us out.
Yeah.
Well, maybe on your point, maybe these guys, maybe Fashanu from Penn State also. Yeah, all the Anu guys. Maybe he drops. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, and we forgot to mention Latham because there's a school of thought that he could go top 8, even to the Chargers at 5. But again, if the Titans go Alt, and if the Jets go Penn State kid, and if the next needy team, New Orleans, goes Fuaga, then all of a sudden the Latham market, starts to shape up here, and you wonder where he goes. So. Another really talented guy. It's such a great offensive tackle class.
Is this in your memory?
Oh, no, I don't remember anything like this.
You know where I was going, right? And we'll ask Greg that. We'll ask Greg that later today, what he thinks. But Latham, I still think 15 to 25 range. But yeah, wow. And then we mentioned Guyton. Brandon Coleman. Let's start looking at other targets for second or third round. So talking to so many teams about him, he could play left tackle if you want him to, but he projects by body type to play right tackle and right guard, or guard in general, or left guard. Hard to see him. And also lower body's a little bit smaller than you like, but man.
This is a TCU kid for those who may not know Brandon Coleman. Yeah.
Brandon Coleman, late second, third, certainly won't get out of the third. Eagles had him in for a visit. We know they like him. We know that Max Melton had him in for a visit. We're told that counted as a visit, not as a local visit. It's actually one of the top 30. He plays everything, inside, outside corner. Great bloodlines, family, dad, mom, athletes. Bo's with the Packers, saved the Packers bacon when all the receivers got hurt. Great story. Other brother played, I think, at Delaware State. Dad Gary played for the Seahawks. It's just a great story, great kid. Eagles like him. Again, inside, outside possibility. Top 40, top 45 guy. What did you tell him about Roger Rosengarten? You had some steam on him. What did you?
Yeah, so he's sort of going under the radar a little bit. He did visit the Eagles. He played right tackle at Washington while Fatanu played left tackle. But it's weird because as many people see Fatanu ability to play guard or even athletic enough to play all over the line, I think Rosengarten's a guy who play right tackle or right guard, I believe is what I was told. And then maybe if you had him throw him at left tackle on a pinch, you wouldn't love it, but he could hold his own. He's just kind of going a little bit under the radar because of Fatanu. Everybody talks about that Washington tackle. But he's a guy who's going to probably go in the second round, and maybe be a top 50, top 60 guy, unless for whatever reason there's medicals that I don't know about. But he's a guy that the Eagles did take a look at.
I would say with him, the knock on him, and I'm going to get it in a second. We've heard other teams tell us that he absolutely could play guard. I know he's tall, but he might not be as long as you would think. I'm just gonna make sure I get.
Yes,
Yep,
I think that was it. The short arms,
Yep.
why they think he could play guard. Yeah.
Yeah, for six, it's so weird. I mean, does 1 inch, a half an inch really matter? I guess fractions matter.
What is he, a T-Rex? He's like 6'6", but he's got
Right. He's 6'5" and 3/8.
Yeah.
33.5-inch arms. That is short to be a left tackle. He certainly is not going to be a left tackle.
Yeah, probably
Basically, basically people we spoke with. In fact, one source said, you know what? We might look at him at a center. One team told us. So, yeah, you said it. They had him in. Boy, Washington's got some good players for this draft.
Yeah, they were a pretty good team last year.
Yeah, they were. That Michigan did Michigan take their lunch though? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
but you're right. Absolutely. Love the quarterback. But other than that, we mentioned Letu. So we've what we've gotten on Letu is, yes, the Eagles had him in for a visit. Yes, they really like him. We've talked to him for a couple of months how much the Eagles like him. People we speak with seem to believe that he'll be available in the 20s. It's teams are concerned about the neck. Yes, he had neck fusion surgery, but didn't hurt him at Washington. Looked great the Senior Bowl, by the way. I mean, look good at UCLA. Washington wouldn't clear him, but UCLA did. So the question is, I believe not only will he be there, I wouldn't rule out a trade down possibility if the Eagles board blows up, which if they can't trade up, got to have doomsday plan, folks. After what happened in 2014 and other years, the Russell Wilson one, which we haven't talked about, where they thought they absolutely had him, and everyone points to other. There were a lot of stories about what really happened, why they didn't trade up for him. But anyway, 2012. But the bottom line is, they like him. They've done their homework on him. Great kid. Could go if. You never know. We don't have grades from every team. We don't know exactly what teams are going to do, but there are a lot of people we trust think he could be available potentially at 22. And also, depending on how the Eagles feel about that, about trading down, could they get him if they trade down lower? We'll see what happens. He's a phenomenal football player, great kid. Just keep an eye on that. We'll see what happens at 22.
Yeah, I've got something that I want to share on Letu that I think is quite fascinating and really kind of it shows the complexity of the situation surrounding him. But first, I'm going to tell people that whether your resolution is to save money, eat better, or stress less, HelloFresh is here to help you do all three. So say hello to your most delicious year yet with fresh ingredients and chef-crafted recipes at a price you'll like, delivered right to your door. So you're resolved to actually sit down and eat dinner around the table. Well, what do you do about those nights when your schedule is jam-packed? That's when you turn to HelloFresh's lineup of quick and easy meals. It includes their 15-minute recipes designed to help you minimize mealtime stress. And we all need more of that in our life, or less mealtime stress in our life. Every time we eat from HelloFresh a meal, whether it's a quick and easy or any of their other varieties, we are blown away by the freshness, the taste, and the quality. We've tried so many great options. I tell you guys all the time, there's pasta dishes, there's meat dishes, there's chicken dishes, there's vegetarian dishes. They have so many fantastic options and great deals. The latest great deal you got to nab is if you go to HelloFresh.com/EaglesFree and you use that code EaglesFree, you get free breakfast for life. That's one breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. Free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/EaglesFree with the code EaglesFree. It's all one word, EAGLESFREE, lowercase. Act now for America's #1 meal kit. Okay, so Latu from UCLA. Love him. The Eagles like him. A lot of teams love him, consider him the most pro-ready pass rusher. Adam, you mentioned the medicals are an issue. Yeah. So I spoke to one team that had its medical meeting and draft meeting, and they fuse it all together. And from what I understand, that team they do not have the clearance to draft him in the first round. Okay. Spoke to another team about the medicals. And for those who may not know yet, he spent 2 years at the University of Washington. He had a neck injury, had to retire briefly, Washington would not medically clear him to resume his career there. He went to UCLA. They medically cleared him to play. He had 2 really great years there, and he just was Defensive Player of the Year in the Pac-12. So that being said, the medicals, every team is checking him out, trying to figure out what happened with the neck and everything, right? So I told you I speak to one team. They say that it's just too much of a risk for them. They won't take him in the first round. Another team tells me he is on their first round board, but they agree with the risk that other teams have seen in it, saying that, there's a risk there, but we're keeping him in the first round anyway, which really illustrates. Sometimes you'll say, no, we'll draft him in the first round because we don't see the problem that they see. This team I spoke to said, yeah, we know that they're, medically what's going on with him, but we still think he's good enough to draft him in the first round. Interesting. All
right. So
2 different ways to look at it.
It's awesome. So I'm going to give you a little information off that. I don't know who you spoke with, but I know the way these work. If you're going to take a guy with a neck injury in the first round, you clearly believe he'll at least get through his first contract. That's absolutely the case.
Mm-hmm.
So now that would mean a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option. So now I'm hoping that the team that you spoke with is a team that's pretty good, where because if it doesn't work, obviously, if he gets hurt and his career has to end prematurely, like Leighton Vander Esch, that would suck.
Yep.
So that's interesting, and that because I remember with Jay when he dropped, when he had the bone-on-bone problem.
Mm-hmm.
And other players have had Marcus McNeil, who I met at the Super Bowl 2 years ago. He was told that he only could play 4 to 6 years with his spinal stenosis. He played 6.
Yeah.
Marcus could not be drafted in the first round because the concern about how long he could play. So he went to the second round. So fascinating discussion. Good stuff.
Really is. I mean, the guys have this isn't apples to apples, but DK Metcalf had some concerns about his injury that was neck related, I think, coming out, and he's so far been really good. Now you just never know. I mean, Marcus McNeil is an interesting story, Adam, because he played like 6 years and then was done, but he started every game, I think, for 6 years, and then all of a sudden, quickly, it was like 9 games that last year, and then he was done.
I talked to him. Yeah, it was terrible. What a nice guy. He explained to me. I learned kind of a little bit more about neck stuff and stenosis, which is narrowing of the spine. But with Latu, he had the neck fusion stuff, and it is interesting. What UCLA had no problem with it, so they felt he could play, no problem. But the neck stuff is always tricky, and that's a good nugget you had. So
yeah,
and we'll look if we have any more to add to this. We'll do this with Cosell later today, but. Again, at 22, to move this along here, you got to have options. You got to look at it. We know that he's not off the Eagles board as we understand it, and we'll see what they do.
What about wide receiver, Adam?
Oh, okay. Doomsday.
I love how you call it doomsday.
Because I'm telling you, when clubs are picking the 20s, and usually it's for a good reason, you're a pretty good football team. You got to have this bucket. If your bucket gets hit like it got hit in 14.
Yeah.
Every trade down, because they've already discussed, they have all this stuff worked out well before the draft about trades up and trades down, depending on who's on the board and so forth. But so receiver, I know they like the kid Worthy from Texas. He's a guy to keep an eye on. Again, if he's there at 22 and their board blows up, can't dismiss it. I've not heard that we're looking at. Someone asked us in our live stream about Brian Thomas. We're looking into him. We're definitely they had Johnny Wilson in. They had Johnny Wilson in from Florida State, the big kid. You and I saw at the Senior Bowl, 6'7" kid.
Not a first rounder, but yeah.
No, probably 4th or 5th, and the Eagles have a 4th, the 20th overall in that round. That's when we're told with clubs, that's when discussion starts. A couple of clubs told us that we're not looking at him at tight end right now. We think he could be a receiver. So that's a name. And I thought the guy, I think his name was Frank in our live stream, made a great point. Sure, you got the 2 stud receivers, but when AJ got hurt, it was hard for them to throw a football. It was hard.
Right.
So they need to add one, but we'll see if Howie end up with 10 picks, 4 picks, 6. Who the hell knows? Don't know.
So if the Eagles want to go edge rusher, but not first round, Adam, there are some guys who are starting to like really creep onto the radar, or they've obviously been on NFL teams, but we're hearing that teams like them maybe more than the media or the public know about them.
All right.
One of them, Andrew DeCecco, has actually written extensively about it on our website.
Did he write about Jalix Hunt?
Oh, he's been writing about Jalix.
Oh, okay. My bad. I should have known
Yeah.
about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Of all the stuff I've read about Andrew, I can't remember when he wrote about him. So that's great because I thought when we got back from the Senior Bowl, because I'd never heard of Houston Christian, but it's actually Houston Baptist. It was the former school, the former name of it, as Jim Nagy told us in our interview with him. I think, yeah, he mentioned that. But this kid is a former safety who had a very late growth spurt.
Former Cornell safety, by the way.
Yep, right. He's super, obviously very smart, but he wanted to play. He just wanted to get a chance to play, and his body filled out and super twitchy. And boy, was I off on this one. I had a team tell me, he goes, the coach said, 5th round, what are you reading? I go, I don't know. The guy went to some school I never heard of. I figured he couldn't play. I mean, I know he was there because I never heard of the name Jalix before, and I'd never heard of the school. He goes, this kid won't get out of the 3rd. In fact, I'm begging our GM to let us take him the 2nd. I'm like, wow, how you put your name on this? This kid ready to start? He goes, we don't need him to start year 1. He's a developmental player. He'll start by year 3. The kid loves it. He's super smart, wants to be coached. I love this kid.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, okay, man, this is good stuff. So Eagles had him in for a visit, folks. And this kid, here's the problem though. Eagles don't have a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, I know it's tough. Well, so let me run a scenario by everyone that I think makes a lot of sense. I kind of brainstormed this with someone who knows the team really well.
Yeah.
And this could happen whether they do package a 2nd round pick to trade up in the 1st round, or even if they don't. You know, how we talked about Howie's desire to always move up and move down. I could see them taking that 53 overall and moving down, potentially out of the 2nd round, moving down to get themselves a 3rd round pick, to make sure that they come out of day 1 and day 2 with 3 players, especially if they wind up packaging 50 and 22 to move up. But even if they don't, you might want to see them move down just to keep adding more in the top 100. Because again, especially if they wind up taking a lineman, right? You got safety you got to address, you got corner you got to address, you got linebacker. Of course, they've signed guys at all these positions and they can play a game, but this is the time where you need to replenish and restock. And they've certainly done a lot of work on corners who are outside the 1st round as well. We talked about Melton, talked about the kid from Kentucky, right? Andrew Joseph.
Phillips.
That's what, Andrew Phillips, right?
Yep.
They've brought in Jerry and Jones from Florida State. DeCam Richardson is a guy you had some intel on, right? That teams like.
Yeah. He's super long, fast, explosive. He's raw, but yeah, can't dismiss that. And
right.
Here's the problem, though. No, this is on your point, though. If they can get a 3rd round, because I've heard from clubs, he shouldn't get out of the 3rd round. There's possibility he gets in the 4th, but he should go to the 3rd because long, fast. This is. Boy, it'd be nice if the Eagles got 2 corners out of this draft in the first 4 rounds. Boy, it would really help them.
Yeah. Someone asked us on the live stream, where would they double dip at? And it was a really good question. Corner is one. And obviously, if they do wind up taking a tackle in the 1st round, especially if they move up and get just a tackle, you could see them because of the work they've put in on guards that we mentioned. The Cooper Beebe, who's from Kansas State, who has taken a visit to them. Roger Rosengarten, we just mentioned, could play guard. Christian Mahogany from Boston College. They've done a lot of work on guys who can play guard. Brandon Coleman, you mentioned from TCU, right? So you could see them double dipping at both tackle and guard because that's where the Eagles are. They always invest in the trenches.
Yeah, you never. It's why they're always going to be competitive because they get it. We've said it's so simplistic. We don't know why other teams don't do it like the Eagles do. The Ravens do to a certain extent with their offensive defensive lines. Can't say they don't try, but most teams don't get it. But they do, and yeah, you never dismiss the Eagles drafting linemen, and it's so fascinating with 8 picks now. Did they start the offseason with 10 or something?
It was weird. It was 9, then they didn't get one because some kind of pick they were supposed to get never converted. I guess the conditional pick didn't meet the conditions, so then it was 8, then it was 10, then it was less. But yeah, they're all over the place.
Right. So just to sum it up, you mentioned Cooper Beebe, who we think 3rd or 4th round. Roger Rosengarten 3rd-ish, maybe 4th.
Can you repeat again your intel on DeCam is it Decamarian?
Yeah,
Decam?
right. His nickname is Decam. Yeah, he's long, from Mississippi State, a little bit raw, but talented and needs some work. Just gotta. He's a perfect developmental player who, by the way, could start someday. There's two types of developmental players. I was told this week that someone kind of corrected me. He goes, you don't understand. We look at it a little different than the media does. There's developmental backup and developmental starter. Like you could take a guy in the third round who you believe by his fourth year, his final year could start. Then there are guys in the sixth round, developmental backups. You know what? This kid's probably not going to make it as a starter, but could be our third corner, fourth corner. Like Ricks was never drafted to be anything but a fourth, but guess what? He's a damn good third corner. And he doesn't project to start someday, but man, this is a good developmental backup. He's terrific at that role. Everything they asked him to do, he did it. That's a great story. Great job of scouting by the Eagles. But Richardson needs further development. He won't be ready to start anywhere close to the first year, but he's a guy that a lot of teams we've spoken with because it's hard to find guys who could run like this who are long. So it's interesting guy. So we'll see what happens.
And he is a guy who had a 30 visit with the Eagles.
Yes.
All right. I just want to finish this off with some linebacker talk. So we'll pause real quick to hear a word from our friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, I know a lot of fans would love to see it happen. You're smiling. You already know.
I know you couldn't help yourself. Go ahead.
I've heard anywhere between late 2, early 3. I think if it winds up being 3, that could benefit the Eagles a little bit more, especially if they wind up picking a 3. I'm talking about Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
Oh, Trotter. Oh, okay. I was just on the off the ball.
Who do you think I was talking about?
No. I thought overall, I thought you were going to do the off the ball linebacker question. Okay, are they going to do it? And I was going to go no.
Well,
I'm just going to because
Adam will take one in the second round. They have 2 picks. Do you believe
I just can't see it. I'd love to be wrong. I know over the years they've looked hard at doing it. They thought about it, just didn't wind up doing it. I get it. Either you do or you don't. But they added Jordan Cooper is my favorite off the ball linebacker for the draft. And Peyton Wilson also. We'll see how teams see him at the next level. But Edgerrin Cooper is so terrific. I look, I'm all for it. I know that they have 6 guys at that inside linebacker role right now who are under contract, and 3 of them won't be under contract next year. But I just can't see Howie adding another guy. If it's another team wouldn't care. They would do it, just take the best guy there. But that's not the way they think, or Howie does. At this off the ball linebacker job, they just don't value it or invest in it like other teams do. I mean, Michael Kendricks, yes. Was he second rounder? Was he second rounder?
He was a second rounder, yeah.
Like, what was that, 12 years ago? I don't know, whatever
year
that was.
He's the last linebacker that they took in the second round, and that was 2000. I want to say 11 because they took Vinny Curry in the second round that year,
yeah.
too.
I mean, I know Matt McCoy. Oops, several.
Now you're going way back. That's
I know when the late great
5? Yeah,
late great Jim Johnson was there. But anyway, I doubt it. I know they had Trevin Wallison from was inside backer from Kentucky, but I would be like pumping my fist if they did it. I just don't believe Howie will do it.
What if he picks up a 3rd round pick? Would you be more prone to think inside linebacker there?
Yeah, yes.
Me too.
We got to look at Trevin Wallison. I need to find out what his grade is.
Yeah, the kid from Kentucky, good athlete. I think he's probably needs to work on the instincts of the game a little bit, but let's just say he'd be more of a legit 3rd round pick than what the Eagles did when they picked poor Davion Taylor out of Colorado. That was not fair to that kid.
Yes.
But yeah, he's definitely a name to look out if it's the 3rd round. Trotter Jr., I think so many people would be happy with that. Greg Cosell likes him. The way Greg spoke about him, you could see him going. Greg almost talked about him as like a round 2 type talent, and maybe he will be.
I've heard 3rd because he's smaller.
That's what I've heard as well.
And that's going to be a problem for clubs. It would obviously we would all be like just been overjoyed. So that's pretty much it, folks. I mean, it's not, we'll see. Because
Cedric Gray. I'm sorry. Cedric Gray from North Carolina was
Okay.
supposed to have a 30 visit with the team. I believe it got canceled. Another guy, good athletic tester, and probably would, if the Eagles wind up with a 3rd round pick, you look at.
All right. And again, we usually don't put a lot of the rounds out on this particular show, but we just decided to do it. We'll give you more. This is the first round. So we'll when you and Andrew, obviously you and Andrew especially could talk about this after tonight's show because as we go into rounds 2 and 3 tomorrow for Friday, and then we'll also have more names for you as we go along. Didn't Christian Mahogany, by the way, is he coming off a major injury, if I'm not mistaken?
He is coming off an injury. I think it's was it a knee?
Yeah, I thought it was
leg,
ACL.
Lower, some lower leg type of. I sound like a hockey PR guy now. Lower leg.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know hockey when they do that, but
yeah, all they do is upper body
ACL.
and lower body.
Yeah, he had the ACL in 22. So yeah, then that's a good thing to bring him in. That's what's about. You see where the injury is. So all right, well that's pretty much.
Yeah.
Again, we got Greg today. We'll update any late steam we get. We'll give you that on the show with Greg, and we'll see what happens.
All right. Yeah. Corner, offensive line, 1st round. My gut tells me it's offensive line, but obviously corner is right up there, and we'll see what happens. That's going to do it for this edition of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the Birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.